Number one reason for success is people focus on things that have high potential consequences. Number one reason for failure is people focus on things that have low or no potential consequences. The famous Drucker quote, very worst use of time is to work intently on something that need not be done at all. And one of the things that is holding back entrepreneurs, business owners, it's killing them, by the way, and it's wiping out an entire generation, is this obsession with technology. I see people that are walking with their phone. It's almost like drug addicts that are mainlined. They cannot stop staring at their screen. They cannot stop pushing their buttons. The fact is that this obsession with looking at the screen and staying connected is killing people because it stops them from focusing. You cannot focus if you are distracted like an attention deficit disorder dog. So you're constantly ringing and responding to bells almost like a crazy person in a toy factory.
Warren Buffett was at a dinner party with Bill Gates and Bill Gates Sr. And they were talking together because Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are good friends, have been for a long time. And Bill Gates' father, very, very successful businessman in Seattle. They were at a dinner party and the three of them were talking, chatting away. And somebody came up to them and asked them a question. And he said, "Excuse me, gentlemen, these are two of the 5 richest men in the world. Both started with nothing, by the way, started at zero. Warren Buffett started with $2,000 that he earned by delivering newspapers when he was 14, 15, and 16, and is now, his company is worth $360 billion, and his company's made $24 billion last year." So, anyway, so they came up to him and they said, "Gentlemen, excuse me for interrupting you, but we've just been noticing you talking, and we had a question for you. What would you say is the most important skill for success?" And they all three turned to him and said the same word simultaneously: focus. Focus is the most important requirement for success. With focus you can do anything, and without focus you can do nothing. Focus is the key to success. But all three said it simultaneously without asking each other. Focus. And it's really interesting because I began teaching this concept back in the year 2000. I began a coaching and mentoring program that I called Focal Point coaching. You know, the focal point is where if you hold a magnifying glass in a certain way, it'll have a focal point that burns, and you can burn through things. Well, so I called it Focal Point. And I taught thousands of business owners, and have still all over the world in multiple languages, how they can look at each part of their business and focus on the one thing in each area that they can do right now that will have the greatest positive impact. Everything else they do has a lesser impact or no impact. And your ability to select the one thing that can have the greatest impact on your life at any time and focus is the key to your success. That's why I'm so concerned about I call it the attraction of distraction. It is so disturbing because it guarantees failure in life. You actually become addicted to distraction and you can't stop it. You're just like a dope addict. You've got to have your distraction. And if you are addicted to distraction, you can't focus. And if you can't focus, you haven't got a chance against someone who can. What do most people do in the morning? Most people in the morning, they turn on their computers and they check their email for a few hours. And they turn up their bell, so it goes ding, 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 and they're like attention deficit disorder children. Ding, ding, ding. By the end of 2 or 3 hours, their brain is so flooded with dopamine that they're incapable of concentrating on anything. And so distraction, technological distraction today is killing you. It's destroying your hopes for your future. It's keeping you busy, and at the end of the day, you've accomplished nothing and you're exhausted. But I want you to think about it because most people slip into this attraction of distraction and we're not even aware of it. Many of you are a little bit surprised when I talk about it because you hadn't even really thought about it. You hadn't even really thought about how much time you spend during the day distracted. And the answer is about 80%. And the rest of the time, by the end of the day, you're too tired to do anything worthwhile, to do the really important things that have big potential consequences. According to a recent report, every time that you respond to a new impulse and a new distraction, it burns up part of your brain energy. At the end of a day, of a typical day today, the average person's IQ has decreased by 10 points. That means throughout a distracting day, you get stupider all day long. And by the end of the day, you're just plain stupid. You've gone from college level to basically driving a truck in terms of intelligence. And this is really serious. There's some very in-depth scientific articles on this, that it stimulates your mind so much that what happens, every stimulus triggers dopamine, and dopamine has the same effect as cocaine on your brain. It's a stimulus, and you get addicted to this dopamine stimulus, and you cannot not surround yourself with stimuli. You cannot not watch your computer. I mean, many people get up in the middle of the night and go and check to see if there's any email, any spam. Then they go back to bed. They can't sleep, and they lay awake at night. Anyway, my point is that if I ask my business clients this. I said, why are you in business? I mean, what's the purpose of your business? Well, it's to make sales and profits. I say, well, if that's what your business is, then do you spend all of your time making sales and profits? Well, sort of. Do you know what the average business owner today spends only 11% of their time in marketing and sales? All the rest is distraction. And they don't even realize it until somebody follows them around with a camera and a stopwatch. The average business owner today is so distracted that they're distracted away from what they do. So I'll give you a very simple way to double your income. Here it is when you start in the morning, leave things off. Don't check your computer or your iPhone or your anything else. There's nothing there that's important. A friend of mine in New York wrote a book 2 years ago called Don't Check Your Email in the Morning. And then she just goes on to explain why checking your email in the morning starts the addictive process. And then you're addicted all day long. You just can't get out of it. It's like an alcoholic or a drug addict that takes a drink. They can't stop drinking. You take a shot, you can't stop. So don't turn it on. Leave it off. And the rule for success today is leave things off. Leave things off. So the reason you're in business is to generate sales and revenues, then all you do for the first 90 minutes of each day is you do revenue generation and value creation activities. That's all you do. Then you take a 15-minute break, and then you start again and do another 90 minutes, and all you do is value creation and revenue generation. The reason why you're working is value creation, revenue generation. So if that's the reason why you're working, discipline yourself to do just that. Don't do anything but that for the first 3 hours. Just make it a rule. We don't turn on our computers until noon. Now, the first time you do that, you're going to have a revolt, probably riots. People will go crazy because it's like taking the dope away from people who are addicted. They go into convulsions, and they will go into convulsions. But you'll have to do it yourself. You'll have to go through your own convulsions first, and then you'll have to pass it on to others.
Here's a brain tattoo for you to consider. We live in a world where focus is more valuable than even your intelligence. Here's another brain tattoo for you to consider. An addiction to distraction will be the death of your creative production. I mean, if you watch most performers today, you watch most people in business today, you watch most people in your community today, and they are walking while checking their social feeds. You know, they are addicted to the entertainment of video games. They are spending the best hours of their days watching dancing cats. I mean, it is incredible right now how consumed people are with their tiny white screens. They're literally hooked to a white screen. They are wasting their human potential hooked into some social platform that is creating empires for other people. Many people, if not most people, are now a form of artificial intelligence. They're not living their brain's potential. They're not living their physiological potential. They're not living their creative potential. They're not living their human potential. They're not living their economic potential. Why? Because they're hooked to a screen. It is the most frightening time in the history of the world, and it's the most gorgeous time in the history of humanity. Why? Because it's never been so easy to be a hero. Because most people aren't doing it. Most people are lost. Most people are hooked. And yet if you look at the A players, if you look at many of the most creative and productive people on the planet, they are doing and working in such vastly different ways. Because if you want to achieve the results only 5% achieve, you've got to think and produce and behave like only 5% of the people on the planet. And the best people on the planet in terms of creativity and productivity are not spending their finest hours addicted to distraction. They are doing work that matters. They're not doing fake work, they're doing real work. And so in this mastery session, I want to walk you through a number of protocols that will really help you multiply your productivity in the finest of ways. And I'm going to get right into the first one, which is the 90-90-1 rule. And what's that all about? The 90-91 rule is simply for the next 90 days, spend the first 90 minutes of your workday on your single most game-changing opportunity. Because what happens? A lot of us get to work and we spend our best hours on our least important activities. We get to work and we start checking our social feed. We get to work and we check our text. We get to work and we chit-chat at the water cooler about the latest TV show that we watched last night. And research has shown that the morning hours are when you have the most focus, when you have the most energy, and when you have the most willpower. And so you want to use that first 90 minutes, that is game time, that's show time. The second piece of technology to create exponential productivity is what I call tight bubbles of total focus. Your environment is so important. And if you look at B performers or C producers, they really don't pay a lot of attention to their environment. And so they get very distracted. There's lots of noises, their phones are going off, maybe there's news in the background, maybe there's messy environments all around them, maybe there's toxic people. What I'm suggesting to you as the second piece of technology to really 100 times your productivity is this. Install environments of tight bubbles of total focus. The way I run my work life, on certain days, I am very hard to reach. And I challenge you with great love and respect, be very hard to reach during key times of your week. I mean, I see a lot of people, and it's not judging them, it's just observing them. Every time their phone rings, they check it. Or they have, these loud notifications. So they're constantly being distracted. And we know what the research says. The research says we spend 2.1 hours a day in distraction. And it takes 21 minutes to refocus your focus after you've been distracted. So if you are being distracted by notifications, checking your phone, checking your Twitter feed, checking your Facebook feed, looking on Instagram, checking all the different platforms, that is going to destroy your focus. So the second piece of technology is create these tight bubbles of total focus. And the way I do it is I have certain days that I label as creative days. And on those creative days, I actually go device free. And on those days, I'm very hard to find. And on those days, I'm in total solitude. And on those days, I go to certain places, I call them my Menlo labs, just like Edison had his Menlo lab. And these places are very minimalist, and there's no one there. And that's where I do my best work. So install these tight bubbles of total focus and create these Menlo labs where you're completely distraction free. And then you will find your brain will drop from the beta state into the alpha state, where you will do your best work and get your best ideas. The next piece of technology that will help you create exponential productivity in your work life, so you truly impact the world around you, is choose your peer group really, really well. The number one way to improve your behavior is to surround yourself with a peer group or social circle of people who are also playing at the level you want to be playing at. So if you want to be a high performer in terms of your productivity, populate your life with high performers. Now here's the science behind it. In the brain, we have something called the mirror neuron system of the brain. And it dates back to thousands of years ago when we were living on the savannah. And this mirror neuron system allowed us to model the behavior of the dominant people in the tribe. So if someone figured out a tool or figured out fire or a better way to survive, subconsciously, this system in the brain allowed us to model the behavior. Now here we are in the modern world, and what happens? Subconsciously, we are modeling the behavior of the people we spend most of our time with. And so if you are around victims, you will start behaving like a victim. If you are around people who are mediocre performers, you will subconsciously start behaving like them. If you're around people who gossip, who are not A players, who do not produce very much, you will subconsciously, because of the mirror neuron system in the brain, start performing like them. Why else is it important to surround yourself with a peer set or a social orbit of A players? Emotional contagion. And that's a scientific phenomenon that simply says we pick up on the emotions of the people that are around us. And so if you are around a social circle of people who are inspired, people who want to do great work, people who want to be ultra productive, people who want to be innovative, people who are relentlessly optimizing their work, their thinking, their creativity, just being around them will allow you to adopt their energy and their ways of being. And then the final technology for you to create exponential productivity is what I call learned minimalism. Adopt the mindset of learned minimalism. Now, I've worked with a lot of the most creative and productive people on the planet. I've worked with billionaires and CEOs. I've worked with true titans. Here's one thing I've observed in them. They understand that the secret to genius is not complexity, it's simplicity. If you look at the greatest empire builders economically, Musk, Steve Jobs, great example. You know, he lived in a pretty simple house. Even when he was a multi-billionaire. Simple house. He was only about a few things. He was about family. You know what he said? I love this. He said, my favorite things in life, books and sushi. Isn't that beautiful? And he was an artist. He was an artist. If you look at a Picasso of any industry, if you look at a great artist, they didn't fill their work days and their personal lives with a lot of things. They filled them with a few things. I guess what I'm suggesting to you is one of the secrets to iconic productivity is be monomaniacally focused at being world class at just a few things. And if you look at any great artist, any great entrepreneur, any great business builder, any great author, any great humanitarian, they were monomaniacally focused on one thing. They were minimalists. And so what I want to leave you with is this. Maybe this year, rather than having 50 projects that you want to achieve at the highest level, maybe pick 3. This year, rather than having 1,000 Facebook friends, maybe go deep and develop 3 really great relationships. This year, rather than trying to read 20 audiobooks, 50 ebooks, go to 5 courses, why not focus on 1 course and 1 audiobook? And why not study 1 great autobiography? Maybe it's Isaacson's autobiography of Steve Jobs. Maybe it's Nelson Mandela's autobiography. I am encouraging you to really adopt this thinking protocol of becoming a minimalist. Even your home, fill it with just a few things, right? Even your work life, just a few projects. Even your clients, just the highest leverage clients, and especially your days. Focus, focus, focus.
You have to have just one thing in mind, keeping on track. Closing out all the noise and the clutter that gets in your way. You've got to identify your target, let nothing stand in your way. You've got to keep your eye on the target until you've released the arrow. Let nothing capture your attention unless it's in the best interest of your ambition. If you don't keep your mind on what you're doing, if you don't keep focused on the task at hand, it could slip right on by you. Wherever you are, be there. Whatever you're supposed to be doing for the moment, do it. You can't be thinking of everything you have to do at one time. All the time. You have to concentrate on just one thing at a time. One project, one job. You have to take it one task at a time and complete it. Do what you've set out to do. Keep your mind only on that one task. Why? If you don't, you won't accomplish anything. Concentration takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of discipline to demand privacy, to keep the do not disturb sign on your door while you're in the middle of an important job. It takes a lot of discipline not to answer the phone every time it rings at home. That's why they make voicemail and answering machines, so you don't have to answer the phone every time it rings. Your family will appreciate an uninterrupted dinner hour. Your night work will get done a whole lot faster. Concentrate on the work at hand and demand of yourself the discipline to stay focused. If you have a long list of things to get done within a day, do the toughest ones while your concentration is at its peak. When you're at work, be at work. When you're in a conference, be in that conference. When you're at your kid's school play or soccer game or dance recital, be there. Don't let your mind wander. Stay focused. Stay focused on the task at hand or the company you're with. Don't let your mind wander during conversations. You never know what important points you'll miss. Stay focused. Stay true to where you are and what you're doing. Use your discipline to keep your mind in line. When you recognize the need to concentrate more, when you recognize this need, and when you discipline yourself to stay focused, it will come easier and easier. Focused concentration can be learned. Focused concentration can become a habit. If you work on it a little every day, the easier it comes, the less energy you'll waste on making your mind mind you. Make your mind pay attention. Discipline yourself to be where you are. Work at work and play at play. Don't mix the two. Concentrate. Give your job the attention it deserves. Give your family the attention they deserve. Give your colleagues the attention they deserve. Wherever you are, be there. Concentrate.